Hey, my name is Leanne, and I'm fascinated with helping women navigate how to eat, move, and care for their bodies. This has taken me on a journey from vegan, keto, high protein to everything in between. I'm a small town holistic nutritionist turned 3-time international bestselling author turned functional medicine practitioner, offering telemedicine services around the globe to women looking to better their health and stop second-guessing themselves. I'm here to teach you how to wade through the wellness noise to get to the good stuff that'll help you achieve your goals. Whether you're seeking relief from chronic ailments, striving for peak performance, or simply eager to live a more vibrant life, this podcast is your go-to resource for actionable advice and inspiration. Together, we'll uncover the interconnectedness of nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, and mindset, empowering you to make informed choices that support your unique health journey. Think of it as quality time with your bestie mixed with a little med school so you're empowered at your next doctor visit. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn about your body and how to care for it healthfully. Join me as we embrace vitality, reclaim our innate potential, and discover what it truly means to pursue healthfulness. Let me tell you, I have had the most epic day, and it really started with leg day. And I crushed my legs and I'm tired, and it's 1 p.m. on a Thursday, and all I want is a pizza. So I ordered a pizza from my very favorite pizza place. They have Caputo flour straight from Italy, and it is the best pizza outside of Italy that I've been able to find. And I can't wait for it to come, but delivery is 45 minutes. And I figured, why not distract myself, make myself a little fizzy drink, and sit here and talk on the podcast. So here I am. I'm excited to talk with you about mast cell activation. This is an issue that plagues many women, and we chase the symptoms. Like 1 month it's fatigue, and then it's your gut, and then it's your hormones, and then you make a few changes and maybe even feel better, but then the relief doesn't last. And it's oftentimes because it's not just one system, it's all systems are just dysregulated, and the body's communication network has really gone off track. And instead of working in sequence, everything's firing out of order. And that's really where root cause work comes in. As a holistic nutritionist who's been practicing since 2007, I saw over the years that nutrition does a lot of cool things. Nutrition is awesome. Making sure that you're eating enough and eating well is great. But if you have parasites, no amount of eating the right macros is going to help you. If you have metals, if you have chronic infections, emotional stressors, like you can eat as good as you want, but some of those things will not go away on diet. And that's really what brought me to root cause work. It was a personal experience that I had. I got diagnosed with a pathogenic parasite that was slowly eating away at my liver. And I had to make some big changes that had nothing to do with nutrition. And root cause work isn't about guessing or trying another supplement or kind of like sticking to a supplement stack and being like, I got it, I'm doing root cause work. Mold, parasites, metals, chronic infections, emotional stress, all of these things never fully clear. And when these aren't like isolated problems, they happen in these feedback loops, and the body just gets into a defense mode. And in some individuals, that defense mode ends up being a mast cell activation issue. So when you understand how to unwind these loops, and how to open up drainage pathways, how to regulate the nervous system, how to get mitochondria back online, symptoms stop recycling. The body doesn't need to be pushed. It just needs direction. And that's why my approach, and it oftentimes takes clients a little bit as they start working with me. They're like, what do you mean we're changing supplements again? What do you mean that we're changing the direction again? What do you mean? We just got on this direction. Why are we changing? I'm like, because there's so many layers of this that we're hitting this down here. Then we got to go over here and do this. Then we got to go over here and do this. And the thing that we did 3 months ago, that's now regulated because of the 2 other things that we did. And so it's this, if you've seen the video actually, or you can even just imagine this, say we have a bottle of, let's say like a mason jar of red wine, and you put that mason jar of red wine under a faucet running at a slow pace, that mason jar is not going to fill up with water in 2 seconds. The wine is slowly going to be replaced over time, and it's going to go clear in maybe like a minute or two, right? And there's all this wine coming out. It looks like the bottle should be changing color, but it's not. And so that's really when it comes to root causes, it's addressing each little bit at a time over months, years to start regulating the system. Autoimmune levels drop, like the markers, ANA, etc. Energy comes back. Sleep deepens. Hormones stabilize. We stop reacting to everything because once the body is regulated, it knows exactly what to do. So in today's episode, I want to break down what root cause really looks like, why it works when nothing else does, and how you can start the process for yourself through my self-paced outline. And this is the same framework that I use with my one-on-one clients, but it's designed to be more accessible because healing, it really shouldn't be available to just those who can afford it in a private care setting. So we'll talk about a proper order of operations. When you follow that proper order of operations, the body starts healing, how to know, how terrain-based work differs from chasing symptoms, and how the mindset shift required to actually sustain progress is essential. And if at any time you're like, I want in on this, I want this whole flow, I can't afford to work with Leanne one-on-one, but this sounds like something that I need. If you click the link in the show notes, it'll go through it. I put together a root cause protocol. So that link is in the show notes for you to check out. And it's a small monthly fee and it gives you access to everything. It gives you access to me. You can run through things, really good stuff. So most people kind of like enter in the functional realm or even the integrative care realm because the conventional system really stops making sense to them. Because the conventional system is reactive. We wait until the body is so far gone before we do anything. And I talked about this on a recent podcast episode about pap smears and mammograms and hormone therapy, that we're using these tools as diagnostic tools, but we're not doing anything initially to help our bodies never get a positive pap or a positive mammogram. And so because the conventional system is reactive, a lot of us are going there getting frustrated because we don't feel good, but they're saying there's nothing wrong with us because we don't have a diagnosable disease yet, but we're still feeling like absolute trash. So the body doesn't work in lines. It works in trends and signals and communication patterns and a lot of patterns that I see in blood work. There are these little signals that start off really, really silent for sometimes years. And all of a sudden it starts increasing and getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder, when it is so loud that a conventional doctor can look at your labs and be like, you have XYZ. You have gone months, years, decades with this problem that was functionally relevant, but we waited until it got to be something ginormous. So when somebody comes to me with fatigue or hair loss or hormone issues, I don't start with hormones because hormones are responding to the problem. They're not the problem. I look for what's pressing on the system. So maybe it's a sluggish liver that can't clear estrogen. Maybe it's mold exposure suppressing mitochondria. Maybe it's chronic infections that the immune system has been managing in the background for years. This is why with breast implant illness, oftentimes the marker that responds initially is a positive ANA because the body is just fighting. It's just immune system is on high alert. So these upstream problems then create the downstream symptoms that most people are treating on repeat. Like, oh, you have a hormone problem? Here's estrogen. Oh, you have a hormone problem? You're not sleeping well? Here's progesterone. They're not asking like, what's going on with the adrenals? Is she living in mold? Like, these are the questions that I ask over and over and over and over and over. Now, the terrain model really flips that thinking. Instead of asking, what's wrong with this organ? We ask, why is this organ struggling to adapt? So we look at the environment. Okay, the terrain that the body lives in, like what we are exposed to on a daily basis, how toxins, pathogens, trauma have like altered the communication of the whole system. So I like to think about it this way. If you plant a seed in polluted soil, it doesn't matter how much sunlight or water you give it. The environment determines the outcome. So it's the exact same with the human body. You can't supplement your way out of toxic, inflamed, and stagnation. It's just, you can't. You have to rebuild. You have to take that little seed, clean it, get it out of that soil completely and move it into a clean place. Now, we are not seeds. We are complicated beings. So when clients come to me and they've been with me a month and they're like, why don't I feel completely different? I'm like, this is going to take time. This is not a quick fix, because the reason most people stay sick is because they're trying to correct the isolated imbalance in the body that's still clogged. Like they're adding, they're pushing, they're detoxing, they're restricting, but like the drainage system is actually blocked. The mitochondria are offline. The lymph is not moving. So the body has nowhere to send the waste. So you can imagine a lot of the time, like I would say the most common thing I see is women being put on testosterone as they're experiencing hormonal changes. And not once were they tested for gallbladder function, liver function, gut function. When testosterone converts into estrogen, because it will, and that individual is pulling up estrogen because their gut is a mess, beta-glucuronidase is reactivating all the estrogen that the liver works to detoxify. Let's say they got their gallbladder out, so we know that their bile is dysfunctional, so they're not detoxifying estrogen properly. All of a sudden, we have a massive estrogen issue of the body building up estrogen. Like, that's not going to work, right? Root cause work honors the sequence that the body naturally experiences. So we need to first open drainage, the bile, the bowels, the lymph, the skin. We need to stabilize the nervous system so that the body will actually let go of the problems. And then only then do we go after the pathogens, the toxins. And when you do it in that order, like it works. The body doesn't resist, it releases. Now, one thing that can pop up during the open drainage pathways, or even initially, like if I meet with a client, I can almost guarantee, like I know when somebody has mast cell activation, just the way that they're describing things. But with mast cell activation, you need to start with mast cell activation before opening up drainage, because if you start opening up drainage, already the mast cells are activated. The immune system is hyperactive. It's responding negatively to literally everything. You need to start there. And sometimes when we start opening up drainage pathways, all of a sudden mast cells will just get really pissed. And then we have to backtrack and work through mast cell activation. So this is the foundation that I built inside the Root Cause Group Coaching Program. So I teach you exactly how to follow this process step by step in a way that the body can actually handle. So you don't like need a practitioner. You just need the right roadmap. And so I made this program a couple of years ago. Actually, a client started working with me and she was like, I cannot, my husband just lost his job. I can't keep doing this. Like, have you ever thought about building a group program? I'm like, I have, but it's a lot of work. But she convinced me to make it. And so I did it. And I love it. I think it's great. Like, because then you can do it on your own time, in your own flow, and it provides that full template for you to go through at every stage and have that proper order of operations for yourself. So the body's order of operations, think of it like every system in the body operates in a specific sequence. So that's a rhythm of how healing happens. So just like there's an order of how dysfunction unfolds, like when one system stalls, let's say it's your liver or your lymph or your gut or your mitochondria, it sends signals throughout the entire network. So you wouldn't like drink a bottle of water and then expect in 1 second that it comes out of your bladder, right? It has to go down your throat, into your stomach, gets processed pretty quickly like water, right? Goes through all the cells, then goes to the kidneys, gets filtered, goes to the blood, then goes into the bladder. There's a proper order of operations. There's a proper sequence. So when it comes to a proper order of operations, when it comes to detoxification and root cause work, The first phase is drainage. This is where we make sure that the exits are open because there's no point kicking things around if there's no way for it to get out. So this is, again, your liver, your bile ducts, your lymphatic system, kidneys, bowels, all of them have to be moving and grooving well, because if you're not pooping, if you're not sweating regularly, if you're not hydrating properly, your body can't release anything and it just recirculates, which is a major bummer. So we need to start here, okay? Like minerals, gentle liver support, bile support, lymph movement, mitochondrial activation, nervous system regulation, vagus nerve stimulation. This foundation is absolutely essential. I cannot tell you how many times individuals have worked with me and I go through their previous protocols and what they've done in the past, and they meet with a practitioner. The practitioner says they have parasites and they put them on all these antiparasitics with no binder, no drainage opening, no preparatory phase, and they just hit it with all they got. That is a recipe to feel like terrible. And oftentimes I've found every person has a specific drainage pathway that's just a little more weak than the other. The common ones are lymph and liver. I would say like those are the two common ones. But a huge issue that most women don't talk about is the lack of sweating. In fact, I see this like a lot at my gym. I don't understand these women and what, like, they don't sweat and they're working out. And I'm like, are we in the same gym? Because I am literally drenched. I mean, you don't really look like you've been working out, and I see you working hard, but like, where's all the sweat at? So I think sweat is a huge issue as well. And that's usually tied to lymph and liver. So I usually just support lymph and liver, and then the sweating happens. Last week, we talked about the sleep peptide, and so many of you have said, I really need help with sleep. Well, let me explain. Bioactive peptides are not just another supplement, because they act as signaling molecules that communicate directly with your body cells to influence metabolism, repair, sleep, hormone balance at the regulatory level. These are unlike vitamins and herbs and other supplements that simply provide nutrients or support. Peptides deliver precise biological instructions. These targeted mechanisms make it more like therapeutic messengers that restore balance rather than a general wellness booster. I am all about restoring balance, and that's why I'm really excited. There's a Black Friday sale just released on the restored peptide. That's the sleep peptide. I want to explain how to get in on the sale, because it's not just a one-time purchase thing. It's a subscription that locks you in to either $20 savings or $80 savings ongoing. That's basically a free peptide every month for the life of your subscription. So here's what you got to do. Go to leannevogel.com/make. You're going to highlight over the shop section and you're going to go to the sales section. When you're in the sales section, you're going to see two options: restored and calm for $24 off. That means when you lock in that price every single month, you're going to be getting $24 off, or the restored fit and lean for $80 off. That's $80 off every month for the lifetime of your subscription. So with the first option, restored and calm, I really like using this combination when we're thinking about overall mental well-being, reduction of anxiety, overwhelm, stress, getting really good sleep. This is a restorative package that regulates you during the day with your calm and during the night with your restored. That's $24 off. Then we have the other package with the restored, lean, and fit. So the fit helps with muscle protein synthesis and inflammation. If you're looking to lose weight, the combination of fit and lean, fantastic. Fit also helps with recovery. Lean helps with the food noise, blood sugar regulation. And then we have the restored in there because we know when your HRV is low and you're not sleeping well, your ability to lose fat and gain muscle is severely limited. So again, that's leannevogel.com/make to set up your subscription. If you already currently have a subscription of a peptide, we can adjust your current subscription to run anytime as long as we make the adjustment sometime in November. we can adjust it to get in on this deal. We can lock it in forever. So again, that's leannevogel.com/make. And if you are a current customer and you can't figure out how to adjust your subscription, you have my personal phone number. Just send me a text and we can figure it out. Okay, happy sleeping. Phase 2 is basically immune support, I guess you could call it. Basically, when drainage is open, we start addressing pathogens like parasites, fungus, bacteria. Then we kind of get into the mold. So this is like the kill phase. Depending on the individual, it might be pretty aggressive or non-aggressive. The goal is not to wipe all the bugs in our body out, but it's to correct some of the imbalances. This is usually where I'm doing a GI map. We want to avoid herxing. And so for individuals that are quite sensitive, we'll kind of go on the low end of things. But people that are pretty resilient, I will go pretty hard at it depending on what's going on. And then mold, because mold has a yeast component. Oftentimes mold kind of transitions from being more pathogenic issue of the yeast into like actual mold detoxification. And this is usually where I'll put also metals, pesticides, environmental chemicals, radioactive elements. This is like the heavier detox items because toxins sit really deep in tissues and organs, especially when the body's been really overburdened for many, many years, decades, etc. I primarily, like if I can and people are willing, I use carbon-based binders because they reach all places. Myself personally, this is what I use. I wouldn't think of anything else. I use a company called Cellcore. It's the company that I use throughout the root cause program that I've put together. It's great because not only in this process of detoxification will you see like significant changes just in how you're feeling, like from inflammation drop to brain fog lifting to hormone stabilizing, but you won't feel like trash as you're doing it. So like that's a really big deal. And so oftentimes the immune support shifts into detoxification. And then at the very end, we're doing like microbacteria and viruses. Like that's when I'm going to do Lyme, Bartonella, Mycoplasma, those sorts of things. And viruses are the last because they are the smallest. And metals really need to be cleared before we work on viruses. Mold needs to be cleared before we work on bacteria, etc. And then after all of that is done, we get into more of a maintenance process. And I love maintenance because that's when we start testing for minerals. That's when we test for nutrients. That's when we're looking at our hormones. Now that we know that your body doesn't have a ton of metals or pesticides or mold or parasites, your gut is balanced, it's resealed, we're good to go. Now let's do the super fun stuff like test your nutrients in your blood to see, do you need a little bit more B6? Do you need a little bit more biotin? How are you with, glutamine? And so we get into the nitty gritty and the coolest thing happens. Okay. A good maintenance protocol will make it so you never have to do a heavy detoxification situation ever again because your body becomes more and more and more resilient. Your immune system is online. Everything's working good. Say you have some funky sushi, your body should be able to kill off those parasites or that bacteria before it becomes an issue. I mean, we don't live in a vacuum. So oftentimes clients who I've worked with, like 3 to 4 years ago, they'll text me like, hey, Leanne, I just went on an Alaskan cruise and I think I have worms. And I'm like, yeah, coming back. We'll like do a quick, update. But if you're good on your maintenance, you can handle so much. And I really love maintenance. It's fun because we get to do hair tissue mineral analysis and blood nutrients and hormones and all those things that people love doing. But it's so unnecessary and completely useless if we're doing that at the beginning of our phase. Like if you have a blocked liver pathway, there is literally no point in testing your hormones. Now, I do have some individuals who are just so uncomfortable and we need to work through some pretty heavy root cause work. And we'll decide that hormone replacement therapy is going to make them feel more comfortable. And so we decide to put them on hormone replacement therapy while we're doing detoxification. And I think for some, that is like a very powerful tool and absolutely necessary so they don't feel like totally terrible. But generally speaking, if we can, I will wait to introduce stuff like estrogen until the liver and the gut and everything are working a lot better. So when we talk about root cause work, there's this layer that what I've seen a lot of practitioners will miss. One of them is binding agents. I see that a lot. Like a proper protocol at any of these phases, except for sometimes even mast cell activation, I'll add a binder because we'll get into like what that is and et cetera. But a binder is often missing. And I would say I notice a lot of protocols where drainage work is missing, either manual manipulation like enemas or jumping in the sauna or, shaker plates, rebounding, like that's just totally missing, or supplements to support. And another big issue I see is that people not properly stabilizing their mast cells before they get into work. And oftentimes I see this with mold clients a lot, where they're living in mold or they've lived in mold and they're just a total mess, and they work with somebody or they find some details online and they start with a mold detox protocol. And then all of a sudden they actually feel worse than they did before. And that's not ideal. So let's start with mold, because oftentimes this is usually the first domino. Like when we get exposed to mold, everything kind of just crumbles, especially if we're not on a really good maintenance protocol. In fact, we dealt with mold in the house just a couple of weeks ago, and I've been on a really good, solid maintenance protocol for about a year and a half. And I felt a little bit bad for a day or two following the remediation, but then I was fine. I've been fine ever since. So mold exposure does far more than just irritate our sinuses. Mycotoxins enter through air, food, skin, specifically lungs, and then they suppress our mitochondrial function, which lowers our oxygen utilization. It slows down bile production. It actually blocks the liver from detoxifying the mycotoxins. Our kidneys will retain water. Our immune system becomes like super hyper vigilant, but ineffective. This is usually where we see mast cell activation or just a total annihilation of immune system across the board. This is oftentimes why teachers who work, unfortunately, in a school system where most of the schools have mold, and their bodies are just toast. And the body becomes either overreactive, where their mast cells are just firing like crazy, or underperformative, where they're just always sick. And in either cases, they're usually really inflamed. And this is why mold exposed clients often look like a total paradox. Like they're tired, but they're wired. They're holding water, yet they're dehydrated. They're anxious, but they're foggy. Mycotoxins lower melatonin, lower glutathione, drive histamine up. They block methylation, which is a huge issue, especially for estrogen detoxification, estrogen support, liver health, like everything. They even damage the tight junctions in the gut, causing what looks like food sensitivity, but it's actually an immune system response. And the body's detox pathways just get totally jammed up. Lymph stagnates, mitochondrial systems, like the mitochondria itself, completely lose polarity. Bile can't move. So it's not great. Parasites would be the next one. They're opportunists. They're not invaders. So they move in when the terrain is weak. And unfortunately, mold suppresses immunity, which then creates that opening. And parasites thrive in stagnant bile and sluggish lymph. And that's exactly what mold creates. So then you have this catch of like, they don't just steal your nutrients, which parasites will do, then they store toxins. So let's say you didn't wash your apple before you ate it. Those pesticides on the apple, yeah, your parasites are just going to hold on to those for you. They're going to absorb heavy metals and pesticides and mycotoxins, and the parasites are just yum, yum, yum. They also absorb your ferritin. So oftentimes people with parasites will have lower ferritin than normal. And that's why you can't detoxify, kill off parasites before your drainage is open, because you imagine these parasites are filled with yum, yum, heavy metals, pesticides, mycotoxins, ferritin, and you start killing them off without open drainage, well, yeah, that's going to feel terrible. That's going to feel terrible. But likewise, if you're like, I'm going to do a liver detox and then I'm going to be super healthy. Like if you clear the liver all day, but parasites are still holding the payload, those toxins are just going to cycle back into circulation over and over and over again. Parasites will also completely hijack neurotransmitters, and they compete for tryptophan, which normally converts into serotonin and melatonin. So instead of like properly functioning, it then diverts your body into inflammation. And that's why during parasite cycles, often during the full moon, people get anxious, they can't sleep, they crave sugar, they experience like a GI upset constantly. Those aren't random symptoms. It's really the metabolic communication from an ecosystem out of balance. And so you can support your sleep left, right, sideways, and inside out. But if you have these parasite issues, then it's not going to get better, right? Okay, mast cell activation. Ugh. MCA is often how it's referred. This is like your body's alarm system when the toxic triad has built so much pressure that the immune system is no longer operating correctly. Like mast cells live in fascia, blood vessels, skin, the gut, and they're designed to protect you. But triggers like mold, parasite byproducts, stress, EMF can trigger this. They basically keep them on like constant standby. And when mycotoxins hit the bloodstream, mast cells release histamine in an attempt to neutralize them. So over time, this creates this feedback loop of histamine rises, inflammation builds, permeability increases, and the immune system just totally loses its regulation. The connection really goes deeper than this too, because mold and parasites both impair our DAO enzyme production. So if you're familiar with mast cell activation and histamine issues, perhaps you've done like DAO supplementation. And it's really interesting because mold and parasites will impair this enzyme production. So this is the main enzyme that breaks down histamine. And they also alter methylation pathways responsible for recycling the histamine. So you end up with like this perfect storm of high histamine output, low clearance, and overactive mast cells. It's a mess. Clients usually describe this as I am sensitive to everything. Oftentimes these people will have like a red face and like their faces will get puffy. They'll be sensitive to smells and temperature. It's not an allergy. It's like your body is over communicating and overstimulated. And so this overactivation is what we call a cell danger response. And this is your body's basically red alert. And the interesting thing is, even if you detoxify the mold, even if you get all of the metals and everything out, your body can stay in a cell danger response. Even when the problem is removed, the system is on hyperdrive and you really need to reboot the system. And mast cells that release histamine, then metals stay trapped in the tissue, mitochondrial output shifts from ATP production to defense mode, and that's why people feel like they're totally falling apart. Like mast cell activation is not fun, and cell danger response needs to be absolutely rebooted. So like, what does this look like? Again, we have to respect the sequence, the proper order of operations. Drainage always comes first because mast cells calm once bile and lymph are moving. Oftentimes, we also have to regulate the nervous system and support mitochondria before we even get close to antimicrobials. So when the body feels safe and the exits are open and the mast cell or / immune system is more regulated, then it's easier to detoxify without the mast cells reactivating. Now, oftentimes with mast cell activation, I am going to use a series of different components, whether it be DAO or resveratrol, vitamin D, vitamin A, perilla, bacillin. All of these things, quercetin, can also be used to regulate the mast cells. It's oftentimes that in really sensitive individuals who are maybe even still living in mold, we have to keep those mast cell supports going the whole way through. We also need to support DAO, methylation, trace minerals, because copper, zinc, B6, vitamin C, all of these are needed to make DAO, and they're the cofactors that let our body process histamines and build the glutathione. So when we restore these fundamentals, the mast cells are happy enough that they don't overreact to the situation. And the further we get away from that toxicity, the easier it will be to reset the cell danger response. And I see this every single time. Like once this triangle breaks, the whole system reorganizes. But like the biggest challenge with my job as a functional medicine practitioner is like trying to get people to be okay with how much time it takes and the rotation of diet, lifestyle, supplements to break this pattern. So inside the root cause group coaching program, we really walk through this process step by step, and you'll learn how to identify which of these layers is really active for you and how to support the system without overwhelming it, because I've seen so many practitioners overwhelm the system. I want to give you like the right tools at the right time, like binders at the right time, drainage at the right time, nervous system work, mineral repletion, all of that in the proper order, so you actually see the needle move. So when you join, you also get access to me via chat. There's like a group page and people post questions and I answer them like Monday to Friday, and a whole video training program and access to everything. So this is really the difference between chasing reactivity and building resilience. Like once the body feels safe, it will do the work for you every time.
I would say one of the least discussed systems in modern medicine is the one that really determines how every other system performs, and that's the nervous system. If you joined us for the episode that I did with Kevin, where he was asking me 1,000,001 questions, I had said that I have seen that autoimmune conditions will not get better and are rooted in a nervous system dysregulation issue. The nervous system basically decides whether your body will prioritize healing or survival, like digestion or defense, detox or conservation. It's really the control tower that dictates everything to do with your body. And when it's dysregulated, the most perfectly designed protocol can stall because the nervous system first needs that support. So when the body perceives a threat, whether that threat is emotional, chemical, microbial, environmental, it shifts resources towards short-term protection. So blood will move away from the gut, bile flow slows down, lymph stagnates, detox pathways tighten, mitochondria reduces in energy output to really conserve our resources. And so you might experience this as anxiety or bloating, tension, insomnia, but really what's happening here is a psychological rerouting of energy from repair mode to defense mode. And I think the big mistake that I see most people make is assuming that the problem that they're experiencing is psychological, and it isn't. It's mechanical. So the vagus nerve, the main communication line between the brain and every single organ, sets the tone for digestion, heart rate, immune balance, like every single hormone signal is passed through there. So when this nerve fires from a place of safety, our bile is going to flow, peristalsis is going to happen, lymph is moving, detoxification is working. But when it fires from a place of danger, cell danger, because of trauma, mold, infection, or even a constant stimulation, like on our phones, for example, that vagus nerve is going to restrict. And I see this oftentimes where people, like, I'll ask them, okay, can you swallow 3 times back to back really, really fast? And a lot of people cannot do this. This is a vagus nerve issue. The body is on high alert, and nothing downstream from vagus nerve, nothing downstream from nervous system. Nervous system is at the top. Everything is downstream is going to work as intended. And I see this every single week. I meet with clients Monday to Saturday, usually 3 to 4 clients a day. And this is a consistent pattern. Someone's running a mold detox from a previous protocol, or, they had mold in their house, so they got on a mold detox, or they're deep into parasite cleansing, but their body just isn't responding. So they add more supplements, they increase binders, or they push their sauna time, and then they absolutely crash. Now, the problem isn't necessarily the protocol itself, it's the sequence that we've done it in. So you're basically asking a body that feels unsafe to release. I don't know about you, but when I'm in full chaos mode and I understand that I'm in full chaos mode, I'm not in calming, breath work, chill mode. So until the nervous system is regulated, detoxing is going to be harder, and it just overwhelms the body with a signal that the body can't even process. And this is why all of the protocols that I put together, this is why the root cause group first focuses on stabilization, like breath work, grounding, tapping, craniosacral work, meditation, prayer, walking outside without headphones, without your phone, just being with nature, mouth taping, nose taping, not like taping your nose shut, but making sure that your nostrils are super open so you breathe through your nose when you're sleeping. When we do this, our bowels start moving better, our lymph is clearing, our sleep is deepened, our hormones are rebalanced. So this change is measurable, yet it's not sexy. I think that there's also this emotional layer too that I see quite often, and I'm not super equipped as a practitioner to really get into this, but every stressor that you've lived leaves an imprint on your body. A really good book on this is Your Body Keeps the Score. So I read this book, and as a trauma survivor, I found it to be too in-depth in areas where it probably didn't need to be. So if you've gone through sexual abuse or physical abuse, I would say don't read this book. I found it incredibly triggering. So just caution there. And nobody talks about that. But when I read it, I was like, whoa, this is really dark. I think they could have explained that your body, no matter what it goes through, keeps score internally without getting into the details of the depth of the grief and loss and hurt that people go through, if that makes sense. So whether it be like scar tissue or surgeries or grief or a long-term responsibility, suppressed anger, all of it shapes how your body interacts with life, how it processes emotions, how it interacts with people. Obviously, we know that. It's really the same principle as scar adhesion after surgery. If the tissue doesn't move, nothing underneath of it moves either, right? So it's very similar. If we experience a trauma and we don't work through that properly, your body kind of freezes up in that area. I've seen people experience like full physical release during something as simple as sauna or castor oil pack. Or, when I used to teach yoga, people would go into certain poses and then just break down because we're stretching and holding in areas that have not been moved. And the body keeps emotion stored in tissues. And so it's no wonder when we go into sauna or we do lymph, I get a lot of feedback when people get on vibration plates for the first couple of weeks, months, they're a mess. Like it's just kicking up a whole bunch of stuff. And for some, nervous system work means like structured practices like DNRS or brain retraining. And for others, it can just be like a daily principle of slower mornings, fewer stimulants, stepping away from multitasking, doing one thing at a time, super intentionally, protecting our circadian rhythm. The nervous system learns through repetition, not intensity. So 10 minutes of genuine calm practice daily, like opening up your Bible and just sitting there for 10 minutes and reading. It doesn't have to be this epic quest of like, I'm getting my highlighters and I'm getting blah, blah, blah. No, just sitting there, chill, and working on that forced relaxation is essential for overcoming nervous system, like I would say calcification in so many ways. And when you rebuild the nervous system, you're essentially rebuilding trust between your brain and your body. So in the root cause group, we integrate nervous system work into every phase. Like before drainage, we focus on creating that like internal sense of safety. And then as we move through immune and detox, we layer in deeper regulation techniques to really help the body like tolerate die-off and emotional release. I've personally gone through enough parasite, heavy metal, mold, toxicity issues myself personally where I've seen this. In fact, I have an interesting story. a traumatic event happened in my life. And at that point, after the trauma, I developed incredible eczema. All through my body as a kid, I had terrible eczema and nobody could figure out what was going on. Like they tried to fix it all physically and I wasn't responding to anything. And then I think when I hit puberty, it kind of just started to go away. When I did my first mold toxic protocol, I was in the sauna, I had taken a binder, and within moments, my entire body broke out in eczema, like all these little patches all over my body. And they lasted like a couple of weeks. And I was talking to my mom, like what was going on at the time where I first had eczema, what was happening in my life, And she explained that was when I had gone through the traumatic event. And it was not a surprise to me that as I'm detoxing, as my body's going through all of this, that it's having an intense reaction. Now you might hear little squeaky noises as I'm recording. I'm actually using my silicone cups on my neck as I'm talking and I'm noticing that they're squeaking. Hopefully we're able to just edit that out or you don't hear it. But oh my goodness, my neck is tight today. Element makes it simple to stay hydrated with a clinical dose of electrolytes, 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams magnesium. No sugar, no junk, just what your body actually needs. As a practitioner, I love that Element offers a raw, unflavored option, perfect if you're avoiding sweeteners or additives. It's an easy go-to for supporting adrenal health, proper muscle function, and overall hydration, especially for those on a low-carb diet or fasting protocols. Whether you're training hard, working long days, or just prone to feeling sluggish and depleted on a low-carb diet, this can help. Right now, Element is offering a free 8-stick sample pack with any purchase. You'll get to try their most popular flavors, including citrus, raspberry, watermelon, and orange. Go to drinklmnt.com/KDP for your purchase and get your free 8-stick sample pack. Again, that's drinklmnt.com/KDP. Let's talk about why root cause work is effective. Like what makes it different from all the other approaches to your health. I think the foundation of this approach is the concept of terrain theory. Basically, every cell in your body lives in an environment, and that environment determines how it behaves. So if the terrain is stagnant, loaded with toxins, low in minerals, deprived of oxygen, cells adapt to survive. So they slow down energy production, they hold water, they trap waste. That's when symptoms start stacking. You deal with fatigue and then brain fog and joint pain and hormone imbalance. It's not these things, it's the environment that we have them in. It was the same conversation we had with the mammograms and the pap smears. It's like we're waiting until the absolute shoe drops before we do something. We can't be chasing symptoms. We have to understand the environment that we're putting our bodies in. And traditional medicine treats these issues as isolated issues. But biology doesn't work in isolation. It's like when you go to the ENT and they're talking about this, and then you go to the GI specialist, they're talking about that. And they say that these two things do not interact with one another. That is absolutely ludicrous. That doesn't even make any sense at all. So every pathway influences the other pathway. When you clean up the terrain, the body starts rebalancing itself without needing constant correction. That's that maintenance that I was talking about. Once we get a body into maintenance, which can take a year to, I just graduated a client that I started with 5 years ago, and she's fully ready for maintenance. That was a long haul. So if we're not chasing detox trends or running endless labs, we're following the same physiological order that the body uses to protect itself. And that's what makes this work effective. It honors how the body heals, because healing is not a straight line. It's like an oscillation between activation, restoration. And that's why in the root cause group and the protocols that I put together for clients, we're constantly changing up our approach, because we're going from the activation to restoration to, if you're on a parasite cleanse for more than 2 months, you're doing something wrong. No, we got to change out the antimicrobials. We got to change out the binder. We got to change out how we're supporting your mitochondria. it's so important that we combine the data from GI maps, mold panels, mineral testing, blood work. But the goal isn't to treat the labs. The goal is to treat the individual and the communication the body is sending. So a lot of the times when I'm working with clients, they'll start our sessions with like, here are all the symptoms that I'm having. Here's everything that changed. Like, what do I do about my acne? What do I do about my, headaches that I'm getting? And I want to be compassionate toward the things that they're experiencing, right? Because it's like, it sucks to get headaches, but the headaches aren't the problem. Okay. Like, what's going on with electrolytes? Are you adding minerals to your water? Are we detoxing too quickly? Like, these are the questions we need to ask. And in the root cause program, this is exactly what I teach: how to understand your body's data. And data is not just the blood work and the GI maps and the testing. It's also the symptoms and the patterns of those symptoms that help you understand how to read the signs of progress and how to know what phase you're in. So you can learn to like build up the terrain step by step by step by step with the same structure that I use with my one-on-one clients, because it's so important to have that support when you feel like you need it. So root cause work is effective because it restores context. It really gives meaning to what the body is saying instead of silencing it. So when we're bringing order back to the system, like we open up the exits, we clear the toxins, we regulate the nerves, the body stops asking for help through symptoms and we start to feel regulated. Imagine that. It's the best thing. I love my job. So if you've been listening and you realize that this is really the piece that you've been missing, and this is an approach that you've not tried before, or it's felt like a little bit disjointed, basically the idea is that there's more happening beneath the surface than what standard care has really addressed. I would say your next step could be very well like putting this work into practice in a structured, affordable way. And that's exactly why I created the Root Cause Coaching Group. So this is a self-paced experience that walks you through the same framework that I use with my private clients. It's really that 4-phase of healing process from drainage, immune, detox to sustaining and maintenance. So you'll learn how to identify which phase you're in, what your next step should be, and how to adjust the pace so that your body stays stable. And I check the messages every day. It's a small group of us, and I'm able to go through and provide any insights if you feel stuck. So here's what this looks like in real life. Basically, inside the group, you'll have access to the video lessons that explain what we're doing in each phase. It's not just what to take and what to do, but like how each decision supports the body's next sequence. So you can really learn. I think it's so important that you walk away from a coaching experience having understood what you did and then be able to apply those things on your own. And so you'll be part of that private community where we share updates, we troubleshoot together, we really walk through this process week by week. And again, I'm there to answer any questions that you have. And I created this model because one-on-one work is expensive. It's powerful, but it's really not accessible to everyone. Like my sessions for an initial client are $449, and every additional update with me is $300. And it's because I'm spending 2 to 3 hours on each client, each session. So it's intense work, but it's also intense payment, right? So this isn't about chasing a quick fix or trying to make changes without the dedication aspect. But I fully understand that the goal of this group is to give you direct access to the structure and education that has made this work so successful in my practice for my clients at a cost that allows people to really understand their own health in a clear, methodical way and spend their resources on understanding and, supplements and tools as opposed to my time. So whether you're dealing with mold illness, we cover that, parasites, autoimmunity, hormonal chaos, fatigue, chronic inflammation, the process is truly the same. It's to restore order to the system, remove what doesn't belong there, and rebuild what's missing, period. And that, as a practitioner, discovering this process has been just such a satisfying experience. I think it was in last week's episode, I was talking about, as a practitioner, I'm not motivated by money. I could really care less. I'm not motivated by stats. People say, oh, you sold XYZ books. I'm like, I don't care. I literally only am motivated by people's progress. If it's working, I will work on it and I will dedicate myself. If it's not working and I'm not seeing progress and things are not coming together, then I get very demotivated and I just cannot. I can't. And so with the root cause group, it was really important for me to outline a full detail of what I've taken hundreds of clients through so that people can move at their own pace and still get access to me in a group direction when they need it. Because the truth is, like, this process works, but it puts you back in a partnership with your body. And I think for a lot of people, the idea of being in partnership with one's body when they have grown up to believe that we cannot trust the body, you really have to learn how to read your body, support your body, and trust it again. And once you understand that, and once you've seen this process, it is incredible, which is what motivates me to keep sharing. So if today's episode helped you to see your health through a different lens, just take a moment to share it with somebody who maybe has been searching for real answers as well. Maybe you have a friend that's gone from doctor to doctor to doctor and they're just super frustrated. I wish that I could just go to everyone and say, it's okay. There's another way. It's going to probably take longer, but the result is you're going to know your body better. You're going to trust your body better, and you're going to be able to care for your body better. So you can be the boots on the ground and sharing this message with those of the people in your life that you feel could benefit from it. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can join me in the Root Cause Group coaching program anytime. It's a self-paced, community supported, and really built up to help you apply everything that we talked about in today's episode. So if you go to healthfulpursuit.com/coaching, and then on that page, there's a little button that says start now, and it's going to outline a couple of options on how to work with me. One is just ongoing assessments. Then there's the group coaching with Leanne, and then macros with Leanne. So obviously you'd want to do the group coaching. And I put with Leanne on there because a lot of coaches, there is a thing happening with coaches right now where they say that you're going to work with that coach, but then when you pay the money, it ends up being with somebody else. And I don't do that. It's just me. I have a podcast editor who is amazing. I have somebody that helps me with my images just for the podcast, and everything else you see is your girl here, just doing it. So again, I will share the link in the show notes to Root Cause Group, or you can just go to healthfulpursuit.com/coaching and check out the details there. So next week, we're going to be talking about some really fun things, including diet culture and issues that come along with when we're trying to get healthier. So I'm excited to see you back here for another episode. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next week. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to the Healthful Pursuit Podcast. Join us next Tuesday for another episode of the show. If you're looking for free resources, there are a couple of places you can go. The first to my blog, healthfulpursuit.com, where you're going to find loads of recipes. The second is a free parasite protocol that I've put together for you that outlines symptoms, testing, and resources to determine whether or not you have a parasite, plus a full protocol to follow to eradicate them from your life if you need to. That's available at healthfulpursuit.com/parasites. And last but certainly not least, a full list of blood work markers to ask your doctor for so that you can get a full picture of your health. You can grab that free resource by going to healthfulpursuit.com/labs. The Healthful Pursuit Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Healthful Pursuit Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified health practitioner with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.